move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it.
Welcome to I Like to Move It, the Rollmecha podcast that explores the latest trends and innovations in the material handling world. I'm your host, Mr. R, and in this episode we will speak about the approach to the move from the business model to a project for an automatized distribution center. We will do it together with a special guest, Mr. Davide Fedeli, Head of Operation of Knapp. Welcome, Davide. Thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, everybody.
Not long ago, we hosted the CEO of Knapp Italia, Mr. Stefano Dovresi. The company, for those who know the world of logistics, needs no introduction. Knapp is a prominent energy engineering company with 62 subsidiaries, ranked among the top companies on Forbes' global list. Davide, going into today's topic, speaking about the distribution center, how its vision has changed.
In the past, the distribution center was always considered as a standalone entity and was just thinking how to automatize the process that was done manually before. But now the real important thing is that we have always to approach the distribution center thinking that it is just part of a chain, it's part of the supply chain, and based on that is influenced by different topics. Higher level for sure, which is the business model of the company, which are the strategy of the company, as we said before, in which way we want to grow. But at the same time, the distribution center is just in the middle of a material flow. So is influenced by the material that is getting in, material that is getting from production, is getting from external supplier, in which way they are coming in. But at the same time, the material are going out from the warehouse. And for that are influencing and influenced by which is the end customer, so the last mile of the distribution, so of the supply chain.
What does it mean to have a vision of the business model of the company?
Coming in the detail of these points. First of all, which is the business model of the company? What does it mean? It means for sure having a big picture. Again, we are in a macro analysis, so we need to have a big picture of how the company is getting money, is earning money. Which is the purpose of the warehouse? Because as I said before, we have always to think that the warehouse is just in the middle of a process. So it's really important to consider all the chain, because it's really sometimes happening that the real optimization is coming, changing or approaching, for example, the supplier to have a different inbound of the goods, but at the same time also on the external part to understand in which way we want to reach the end customer. And for sure we have to analyze the different business cases, because the same warehouse is every day much more an omni-channel warehouse.
What does omni-channel warehouse mean?
Means that from the same warehouse we have to distribute and to reach the end customer through an e-commerce, for example, but also a secondary warehouse to having a secondary step of distribution. So in the same warehouse we have to manage completely two different flow, also in terms of volumes that needs to be handled. And consider the e-commerce is every day much more important how to manage the returns. In the e-commerce, the number of returns is getting higher and higher, and the time consuming for the managing of the returns is much more expanding time, because we have a lot of single pieces that have to be reconciliated with the pieces that are already inside the warehouse. So it's for less number of pieces, let me say, is taking much more time. And for that, of course, are related costs that is getting bigger.
Which are the goals for the project?
It's not just thinking we want to reduce the number of people, for example, but means also to reduce the lead time, the transit time of the products inside the warehouse, or the lead time in terms also of order preparation. So to be, for example, in the case of the e-commerce, the day after already in the delivery to the end customer.
How we can measure the success of a project.
Time frame of the realization of the project, the budget for the project, and really the phasing, because now when we are approaching a project, we have always two things that the future is coming and the changes are coming always faster and faster. And the flexibility and the scalability of the project is one of the main topics to be considered. What does it mean? It means that when we are approaching a new project, we have always two things: a target, a goal to be reached, but also the different phases to reach that target. Because means also distribute the investment in the future. Means that if I'm projecting now a new distribution center, considering when we want to go in 10 years, means that we can have parts that can be ready in 5 years, and then based on the different kinds of growth that have the company and the different kinds of growth that have the markets, we can change, and this is the effect of the flexibility of the system. We can change how to creating the next step of the project, but for sure we need to think on the full and the big picture since the beginning, in order to consider that the second phase, the first phase of growth on the technology can be implemented without stopping the existing warehouse, because thinking to a greenfield installation, so a completely new warehouse, is easy to do, let me say, the first installation, because all the spaces are available for us. But then when it's in production, we have always to consider that the production have to not stop, and we have to be able to implement the new technology and the expansion of the system without stopping the production.
Can you give us some examples?
For example, in the shuttle warehouse, it's possible to create since the beginning the full rack, considering also the future expansion, but not placing the automation for that, but automation that can be easily implemented during the production in the future, and so can be anticipated or posticipated in the future based on the different tax of growth of the company, instead of what was planned since the beginning, or what is changing in the projects can be implemented in a different way. And this is an effect of the flexibility of the new technologies.
You explained how the warehouse has a new identity and how strategic its central position has become. So I guess it's essential to understand the type of material and how this material transits through the distribution center.
We have to analyze from where are coming the goods. Are coming from an internal production, are coming from external production, so from designers or supplier, and in which way they are coming already with their final packaging, or needs to be re-elaborated inside the warehouse to have the final packaging, for example, or to have some value added. I think into some kinds of products where needs to be added, for example, the gift message, because for example in the e-commerce you can add some sentence or some personalization, so it needs to have in the distribution center also some additional operation. And for sure, how it's coming in which way, in terms of totes, in terms of carton, in terms of pallets that are mono SKUs or mono articles or mixed articles, so needs to have some different decanting station at the entry of the warehouse.
How do we move the material within the warehouse, and how important is it to know the regulations?
First of all, we have to think if we are inside an existing warehouse, so we have already some specific requirement, or we are completely talking about a new warehouse where we have also the possibility to change also the way in which are handled or transported the goods. And which kind of goods, for sure, because moving from one sector to another, there are some specific requirements. So an example that is easy for everybody to understand. If you are thinking to food, for example, you have to think that food means dry food, but means also fresh food or cooled food. So means that you have to have a differentiated area inside the warehouse. You have to have differentiated technology to handle these kind of goods. But thinking to other sectors, there are sectors that are classified as drugs, so needs to have a specific handling or specific area where to be stocked, or for example, dangerous exploding products and so on that have other specific requirements. So it's really important to know which are the requirements also in terms of normative that have to be respected, and which are the technology that can match these requirements.
How do we move the goods outside?
We have to reach different targets. So it's important to understand which are these targets. Are the own shop chain, so the retail, or we have to reach a secondary warehouse, or we have to reach the end customer. As I said before, every day we are much more encountering distribution centers that are omni-channel warehouse, and based on that also in which way, with which carrier type is the own couriers, are thinking again on the food, are special delivery means with a cooled truck, cooled small truck, and for sure again which are the special requirements again for explosive products or cooled and so on.
Where the technologies are present and where the automation and the projects can be present inside the warehouse.
Let me say everywhere, because as I said, the different combination of technology is now allowing to be present from the picking to the storage to the delivery, and for sure in top of all of that combination is important to have a brain that is the software, so the IT part, and the artificial intelligence is every day much more relevant inside the warehouse. So the technology has to be think to 360 degrees, because it's not just the automation in terms of movement, but of the combination of the movement to be moved in the right way at the right moment. And for sure, afterwards, the service and support. And again, service and support is not just the mechanical guy that is going to adjust a screw, but is a full approach with monitoring of the consuming of the single motor, for example, to understand which are the motor more under stress, or to see the variances in the time to understand if could be a problem in that area, and so direct the maintenance on the specific area. And this is something that with the new technology and again the new software technologies is now everyday possible. And as I said, the approach is now to be considered as a partnership with the potential customer, because we really need to understand the need of the customer and work with friends with them to understand which could be the right solution. So, as we always say, partnership matters.
I am pleased to hear this, because partnership matters is also one of the claims we use at Rollmecca. We believe it is essential nowadays. It was a particularly informative episode. We went a little longer with the time than usual, but the information you gave us today was exciting. Thank you, Davide, for being with us and for telling us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on I Like to Move It, the Rollmecca podcast. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you next time to explore together again the most interesting new trends and developments in the world of materials handling. Take care and keep being awesome.